Wow, here we are.
Oh, nice to see you again.
You remember me?
Absolutely. Who could forget that distinguished gray hair and the handsome face?
Well, Bill, I can't see your mouth. Your camera is a little high. So,
Hi.
that's awesome. Thank you.
That better?
Yes,
Oh, I
sir.
must have been slumping. Good.
Well, I bought 10 minutes because I wanted to talk to you partly out of you interviewed me 10 years ago at Star Trek Las Vegas when you were doing your fan documentary.
Yes.
And I had to, write 600 words, and I won an essay contest. And I remember distinctly, you said hello to me, and you said, "Oh, you're the intellectual." And then you interviewed
Was
me.
that good? Did you feel a glow?
You
Or
know,
was that like
well,
terrible?
in red, it rang true, and in retrospect, it was more true than I realized in the moment.
Ah,
And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I didn't realize that almost wasn't me that you interviewed back then. That was like this guy who felt he had to give a speech because I was so out of touch with my emotions.
wow.
I referenced it at the beginning. I was like, Star Trek helped me survive my rough childhood, but then here's my speech. Because even though intellectually I knew I had a terrible childhood, my father, I now know, he was like Donald Trump. He was this malignant narcissist, and he dominated the family. And my mother was traumatized, and my sister was traumatized. And so I escaped that domination by basically shutting down my emotions, and I escaped to television, where I eventually discovered Star Trek, but that was 1966. I was already 11, so there's been this long recovery process. But you talking to me 10 years ago, I now see where I was then and where I am now, where
Wow.
I see the emotional detachment that, again, I was only able to say I knew it, but I didn't feel it. And wow, have I had a lot to learn, but it's a hell of a trip, and I'm delighted you
Wow. So
have.
have you done therapy?
Yes and no. I went to a kind of a therapist about a year later, and here's what she told me, which I didn't know. Again, I was like 57 years old, and I learned I have high functioning Asperger's syndrome.
Wow.
All my life, I thought I was just like this slow, late bloomer. No, I have my brain is wired up different.
Wow.
It,
What characteristics are Asperger's?
for me, for
Yeah.
me, it's pattern recognition,
You
and
don't recognize patterns?
no, I do.
Oh, you're particularly
Yeah,
sensitive to patterns.
yeah. Like I see the
You
world, and I
see
see
patterns.
connections. I see
Yeah,
connect,
yeah, yeah.
and I also, as a lot of Asperger's people, I get fixated on something, and I go into like research mode. And
Right.
I understand you love researching. I loved you talked about you're like you're learning how trees communicate. Holy
Yeah.
cow! Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Yeah, yeah. Well, not only trees, but everything's communicating. I'm evolving a concept that everything is web. We don't know what dark matter is, for example. Maybe that's a web because we know the Earth is webbed, and everything has structure. What kind of structure is up there that's invisible that may be electronic? But so
Yes,
Asperger's,
yes,
that's
sir.
so fascinating because seeing the relationships of things is a huge talent that people like Einstein saw the relationship instantaneously. And there are some people who, like yourself, see that, and that's a real talent.
Well, thank you. I again, I didn't know I had that special skill. I literally just thought I was a guy who was trying to piece together emotions to logic. But that's not. That's like the post traumatic stress syndrome from being beaten up by my father. But then to have this skill, it's like I've had to figure out how to do both. Come to terms with my skill and to come to terms with still the It's like
What do you do
emotions
for,
still don't come easy.
what do you do for a living?
Ah, I'm a champion of sustainable development strategies. In other words, we want to be good to the environment, but my specialty is we have to also be good to each other. There's this whole business movement. Businesses have to be, green, and they have to, forget about fossil fuel. But businesses also have to help us end racism and deal with the human to human.
Are you seeing patterns between the business and what needs to be done?
Yeah, I follow. I
That's what.
see. I see the gaps. I do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm talking to people now. This is like, I finally figured out my niche. I I love the environment. I even have an engineering background, but there are people who are way ahead of the game for that. But I can be the guy who stands for this human connection business piece. Like people are angry. They just passed these laws in Georgia to stop people from voting unless they're Republicans. And Coca-Cola is based there. And they found out that Coca-Cola gave some money to the Republican Party. So people are saying, Coke, wake the hell up. You know, you got to help us.
That's the way it's going to be. When you reach into their pocketbook, they're going to do the right
Boycott.
thing.
Yes, sir. Boycott Coke. And I hate to force companies to wake up. I'd rather they woke up again in their heart and not their pocketbook. So
See, what I've never understood were people like the head of General Motors who knew that the exhausts were killing us, but fought having a converter there, or the tobacco companies. I mean, are they monsters? Who are these people?
honestly, they want to make money the easy way. That's my sense. And change is hard.
But
So
don't they have grandchildren? Don't they have children?
I know. Native Americans thinking, 7 generations. I don't get what the head of General Motors, right.
It never made any sense. It never made any sense that the tobacco companies knew that they were killing us and would go to Congress and lie. I mean, I
Yes.
mean, maybe you could say we didn't know. You could do a number of things. Oh, it,
Well,
but what
again,
you're doing is perfect.
well, I I had to finally again piece together. It's like, why am I here? I know I can't be. There's some great people. William McDonough has this Mother Nature friendly business model he teaches. It's called Cradle to Cradle. And Amory Lovins has this thing called the Rocky Mountain Institute. And I actually met him through John Denver years ago. John Denver was a gigantic environmentalist.
Yes.
He helped me see that entertainers can wake the public up to this stuff.
Huge.
And so
Huge.
part of this piece for me, which I shouldn't leave out, is I love how entertainers can help popularize. And my mom was a chorus girl during World War II, became friends with Danny Kaye, of all people. And as a kid, I heard about Danny Kaye's work with UNICEF
Oh,
because
for goodness
doing
sake.
that in the 1950s, and we were watching him on television, and my mom was saying, "That's my friend," even though I'm married, so your father won't let me talk to him. But she knew what he was doing, and I was like, "Oh, that's why whenever it's a Halloween, I carry this little orange box and I collect money for UNICEF because Danny Kaye somehow got UNICEF and Halloween to."
That's hysterical. That's fabulous.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
intertwining of our lives and the way history of our own personal history takes form. It's fascinating.
And of course, you have helped popularize so much, and I thank you for that. Gosh, we've only got like a minute left, but I'm glad I bought 10 minutes because it means so much to me to get to give you a real interview versus 10 years ago and to just say thanks. You know,
Well, and the thanks to you too. I mean, uh, uh, what I do, I just make use of this celebrity and try and point out to everybody the interconnection of everything and everybody. You harm one thing here, it affects over there.
well, I can't wait to see what you do next. The whole thing where, again, the trees talk. And also this song, The Bridge, that I'm going to go for because that's how life is so precious.
And
So
life is precious. You take care. You sound like you're just burgeoning now. You're just growing. It's a pleasure. I look
Better
forward to
late
the
than
next
never.
time we're
Better late than never.
here now.